Good evening, B's, G's, MB's, Peens, Regines, and in-betweens. I come to you as always as Charles, otherwise known as Sipo, and with me is...
Embo, the other one?
the
I
other one.
don't know what we're going with.
Well, we get the Brit Twit. Where are you? You're here. Maybe not.
Yeah. Everything's
There we go.
going as planned, I guess.
Yeah, just make sure that you can hear us because we're trying something new, and let us know. Cheers, Deadhead. Hopefully you can hear.
Yeah, cheers.
But today we're talking about the Yorgos Lanthimos film Poor Things. Loud and clear. Wow. All right. Cody in the chat. Yes.
Hi, Cody.
Yes. Hi, Cody. Cody saw this a while ago. I remember he saw it pretty early.
Yeah, it came out last year, didn't it?
Late. Yeah. It's up for Oscar, so it definitely was a 2023 release. And when he finished it, he was like, that was a really weird movie. And I got nervous because Yorgos Lanthimos, he did, as far as what I've seen, he did The Lobster and Dogtooth. So I was like, he's not exactly what I would call a traditional filmmaker.
Yeah.
And I think, Dogtooth was the most recent thing I've seen of his. And I know he directed The Favorite, which we haven't gotten around to yet, but that has won accolades.
I really should have done because Olivia Colman's in it and I really like her.
Yeah, so. I think she won an Oscar for that too.
Yeah, pretty deservedly from clips I've seen. Like she gives a very emotional and, well-rounded performance.
Right. And Emma Stone is in this movie, Poor Things. And evidently, after doing some homework, Emma Stone produced this movie and, took some responsibility behind this, which is, in hindsight, I was like, interesting that the person who's producing this, she's on screen a lot.
Yeah. Sounds like a tall order, both, what was it, directing, producing?
No. Yorgos was the director. She produced it and was the lead actress.
But I'm sure that gave her insights that she might not have gotten if she was only acting in it, right?
Perhaps, but the fact that she signed up for it and maybe the budget for clothes wasn't really there. So, I mean, I got sick of seeing Emma Stone's body at a certain point where it's like, all right, with the nudity.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
I was going to say the budget for clothes. I mean, there's a lot of big sleeves in this movie, so it seems like there was some budget.
Yeah, she had sleeves, but nothing else. If you can just a little bit higher. Yeah.
Sure.
Yep. So yeah, Emma Stone, Mark Ruffalo, woo, and Willem Dafoe. And what do we got here? Dale, $4.99 super chat. Thank you. Just dropping this because you guys are awesome. Cheers.
Thank you, Dale.
Thanks, Dale. Cheers to you. Sean says Emma Stone is one of our brightest talents. Where's she from? What's this hour shit?
I think the first thing I saw her in was Easy A.
Yeah.
That was an educational watch back when I was still at home.
Wait, wasn't she in with Michael Cera, and she was in Superbad? I'm pretty sure of it.
I haven't seen that all the way through.
Oh, all the way.
I don't know if I'm missing out on that, but
Emily hasn't seen much of anything all the way through.
I grew up from a family where we would watch stuff either if it was on, or then my mother would get a phone call and I'd be like, oh, I'll wait. And it would end up being like an hours-long affair. And I don't know, just taking things in dribs and drabs. But I don't know if I was missing. At the time Superbad came out, I was still in school. And I don't know if I had the comedic distinction to appreciate that kind of comedy yet.
Yeah, your comedy taste before I met you.
Yeah. Borat, for someone who's too young to watch Borat, is just traumatic and strange. I would say.
That's what I would call this movie. I mean, Cody freaked me out and I was nervous, but there was things that I don't agree with, but it was fascinating, and not in a way that I would call something like Dogtooth. Dogtooth was just weird, although the one
that seemed to be on purpose, I would say. Like, it was going out of its way to be a little I don't know, over the top strange. And I mean, that was the nature of the plot, I suppose, that the children were kept isolated on purpose, and it was just very bizarre and back to front.
And their own language thing is something that I recognized, or at least a little bit. I was like, man, this director he just likes making his own language, huh? Because a lot of her terminology in the beginning felt very Dogtooth-ish. But for those of you who aren't familiar with it, Poor Things, we're going to spoil it at some point.
You're right, Jacob. Not weird for the sake of it. It was very much. I'm not very articulate at the moment. Sorry.
It's tomorrow where we are. So.
I'm not doing the thing justice, but yeah, that was not weird so much as
bizarre,
disturb.
Yeah, not in a bad way. It's just
no. You're supposed to feel uncomfortable, and you know.
Well, yeah. There's at least one sex scene where you're like, well, that's
at least one. Yeah, I would say
that's not a.
Most of the sex scenes I would describe as uncomfortable.
What, in Dogtooth or this? Because
in Dogtooth.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't.
Well, this too, arguably. We'll get to that. I'm sure.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
Marty, what's going on? Got to give props to the most actresses of her caliber would refuse to do nudity roles, but she went all in. And again, she put much more responsibility behind it as well. Her performance is going from infant to a teen and sexual awakening to adult woman. All right, so that's what we'll get. It is, so Emma Stone plays. More importantly, Willem Dafoe plays a scientist, a doctor of sorts.
Yep.
And he's
strange things going on with this guy. His face is heavily scarred. He keeps belching these orbs that are never explained, as you saw in the intro for this video.
And the intro, once he did it a second time, I was like, oh, that sounds like Finn Balor's theme. So you guys have what was going on in my brain in the intro. But yeah, so Willem Dafoe he takes a recently deceased, and this doesn't get revealed until the second act?
Probably.
A recently deceased, spoilers, sorry, recently deceased woman who's committed suicide, but
while heavily pregnant.
Yeah, she's with child. Yeah, noticeably so.
Yeah.
And he does an interesting bit of science and takes the brain from the infant and puts it in the recently suicide dead mother. And so now the body of the mother is housing the brain of the child.
Yeah, she's her own grandpa. That's a reference to a song. No, she's her own mother and her own child, in a manner of speaking.
Yeah. The vessel is the mother, but the thought process is the child. And they don't tell you that up front. So she's just like weird, and like, in hindsight, it all makes sense because she's doing things like just what a toddler would do. She, just
mentality-wise, she has a lot of catching up to do with cognition and mobility and all that kind of stuff. Which, okay, so Willem Dafoe's character, he brings in a young student of his, a medical student, to kind of oversee the his raising of the. I don't know if he's raising it as his child, as an experiment. I think they both grow to be quite fond of Bella. But initially it's sort of a seeing what's going on with her and that kind of thing, seeing how fast her cognition, verbal skills develop. She's learning words very quickly, much more than an infant normally would. I would say 10 new words a day. Her hair is also growing very fast, which is why it's down to her kneecaps, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
All these things they observe. And she and the student, Max McCandles, they form some sort of bond, I would say.
Yeah. So McCandlell's character,
he
uh,
has a naivety of his own. I feel he's young and inexperienced for a man his age.
yeah, but he's the assistant of Willem Dafoe, and so he grows a liking to Bella, and they work up this contract that they're going to be married under the understanding that they all have to stay there in
they have to keep Bella isolated within the home.
Right. But up until that moment, they're having like school. I don't know. There's a lot of moments that Bella has a lot of what I would, in hindsight, oh, okay, it's the brain of an infant. That all makes sense. But as you're watching it, you're like, what the hell is the deal with this?
She wants to partake in vivisections, but she's like, oh no, only dead ones for Bella. Yes, dead ones. Stab.
Yeah, she stabs a
she wants to be like her dad. It's cute.
Yeah, well, that, and she's like, she plays with things, and again, a very childish understanding of things. Like she wants to see things dead, kill it, whatever.
She doesn't understand the gravity of death yet, which is a process we all go through.
Right.
And like, why isn't Grandma coming back? She's not going to be happy down there with the worms.
And while everything is bizarre, like you have a chicken dog hybrid.
I liked that Frenchie chicken.
Yeah,
I thought he was cute. Or she.
Yeah, pig, goat. Like in the backyard, they have
the kind of thing you'd see on a Tudor banquet table, sort of thing. Yeah, this mishmash of animals.
It kind of
classic Frankenstein fare.
Yeah, it informs you that this doctor, this scientist, has done things successfully before, and again, as you're still learning things, it's like, this is kind of bizarre.
Yeah,
and once you figure things out, that it's Frankenstein, with a little bit more of a modern twist. It kind of,
it's sort of set in Victorian England, but with a twist. Again, there's something steampunky going on. The environments, absolutely. the backgrounds, they're very rich and colorful and interesting, and with advancements that you wouldn't expect for the age necessarily.
Right. Yeah.
It's a fantastical Victorian England.
Yeah, it's steampunky. You said it. It's like Victorian England with benefits.
Yeah, and the patriarchy is something we come to deconstruct over the course of the film. It's a little more relaxed than you would expect for the age, I would say.
They never tell you what year it's supposed to be, or
no.
It just.
I think we're meant to assume it's an alternative universe based on, Frankenstein women, they're not a thing that we can really do. So
right, and
it's fictional,
That's why it gets away with a lot of the bizarre, obscure shit they do, because it's like, well, it's not a real world, it's not a real time. It's just bizarre, yet it still has subtext that
it's a weird microcosm that maybe you can't necessarily apply modern patriarchal and feminist views to. You have to take everything with a bit of a grain of salt.
Sure, but at some point, I brought this up when we were watching it. I'm shocked that the anti-woke crowd didn't jump on this movie, because it's pretty heavy by the end of the movie, that this is about, this is a feminist movie.
Sure. It didn't make as big of a splash as Barbie necessarily.
Well, that's because it didn't make as much money, and Barbie didn't get naked 17 times during the movie. So,
did she get naked even once? She doesn't have any business.
You're gonna have to watch.
That's probably fine. If there's no.
Yeah, she had the same downstairs parts as Willem Dafoe did.
She's like Alan Rickman in fucking Dogma. I don't see the problem. We've all had a cheeky look at Barbie as dolls,
but
as children.
My point was, the anti-woke crowd seemed to throw a hissy fit about popular things, but here's a movie where the subtext is heavily, feminist, female independence, and not needing a partner. And granted, it could be out there, but I haven't seen anything from the big stinkers, so it's just interesting, like, why nothing here? Because it's pretty evident, I would think. The anti-woke didn't jump on it for the same reason they didn't jump on Love Witch. It isn't cape shit. And again,
What's cape shit?
Superhero, topical things, clickbait shit. Again, that's why Barbie was commented on, because a lot of people watched it and it's making money, and
yeah,
or related to anything they grew up with, right? But I would contest that nudity has a lot to do with it. If I can masturbate to it, I'll forgive it for now.
Well, you let me know if you manage.
Well, it's 16-year-old straight boy mentality, and
is it though? I mean, no. The question of whether there's anything masturbatory in this film, because there's a lot of nudity, there's a lot of sex scenes, but it's presented in a very non-eroticized way. I would say it's very
yes and no.
You
get a 16-year-old boy going.
She's making very awkward noises and faces and being like, "Oh golly gee, what was that?"
Emily, people specifically go to porn for, some interesting behavior. So
they want something proprioceptive, something that makes them want to duplicate what they're seeing. Not so much with this film, I think. I think it was deliberately shot in a way that's not gratuitous or erotic.
I contest that. There are shots that, while the people aren't completely traditional in their ways of fornicating, there's certainly shots that are right up a horny teenager's alley. I would contest.
Nothing that doesn't serve the plot, though, and nothing that compromises Bella or puts her in a situation that would make the observer think, this is probably for the male gaze exclusively.
No, the male straights, I said.
Yay, puns.
But no, we're losing track of. It was a throwaway line about what a teenage boy is thinking about while going through puberty, and the male gaze isn't it. Oh, naked body having sex. This is something I can blast off to. That was really the sum total of what I was trying to say.
All right, sorry for airbagging you.
That's fine. Nudity plays a role as well. You won't hear these guys complaining about Carla Gugino playing the hottest lesbian in Sin City, but if she were butch, they'd be tricked. Right.
There's some butchness in Bound. I mean, you have one lesbian who's, corky, is very covered in grease constantly, and then there's the more femme Violet. But that was still shot in a very erotic way.
Yeah, it's hard to use anything by the sisters because we know what happened with them. I would say
what happened.
Well, get away from this. We're not getting into male gaze here for the sake of it. Poor things. Cinematography. The one thing that I just wasn't a fan of from the jump was the weird lenses, and there was just outright
I noticed
fish angle lenses that were used, and
the vignette thing.
It was done a couple of times, like where even you said it, the background, you could see that it was like foggy and it had this like circular thing about it, and I don't know.
I don't know how you would even begin to do that. Make the background very fisheye and bulbous while not affecting the foreground.
If you use the right lens, everything will look shit like that.
Okay,
and
interesting.
I don't like it. Cody's brought this up too a certain time where he's disliked the fact that we have black on the screen, and it's shot in a way where it just looks. I don't know. You're not making a skateboard video. Granted, if somebody can explain to me what the cinematography was trying to achieve,
I briefly watched a video that tried to explain it. The kind of telescopic vignette thing was supposed to, I don't know, to make us focus on one thing in particular, and maybe it's sort of saying that, Bella is going through this whole experience with blinders on, figuratively speaking. And the very wide angle shots are, meant to represent her coming into her own and blossoming and achieving intellectual enlightenment, that she's seeing the whole world at once.
Did she always get... I'm pretty sure those shots were done not exclusively to Bella's character.
No?
I mean, I'll have to check. I just remember trying to... I mean, I said it audibly a couple of times. I really don't understand what the cinematography is doing, and I don't like it. If you're talking about like tunnel vision, Scorsese did that in The Department, where he wanted you to look a certain spot, and then he'd pull out from it. And that wasn't a shot that was replicated from Infernal Affairs. So, to get their attention somewhere, you could do something and not have the entire shot or repetition. Like, if you need to tell people watching the film where to look, I mean, we've lost it as a civilization, that we need to be
Cinematography
shown.
is used to direct the audience. As an example, there's this whole telling people where to look. Like in La Haine, there's a scene of police brutality where the camera doesn't move and you are forced to see what is happening to two of our main characters. It's a static shot showing everything in a very uncomfortable light, versus Pulp Fiction, when the ear gets cut off, we are looking at the door. Like,
you're talking about Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah. We're being allowed to look away.
You said Pulp Fiction.
It's a discretion shot, right? So they're complete opposites. That's what cinematography can do.
Sure. Well, I mean...
So it's nice that the film is allowing us like such a wide establishing shot to display the backgrounds, beautiful environments that Bella is also being allowed to see. Maybe that's the angle they were going for, if I had to...
I still don't like it. Like, to quote Cody, the fact that there's black on the screen is not the greatest look. And again, as far as like, this is a movie that if it were in 4K, I wouldn't really care. It's not really not to take anything away from the set design, which is quite incredible. Again, it's very steampunky. We had a very steampunk weekend between that and Arcane.
Sure.
We keep talking about everything but the damn thing. Yeah, I was a 16-year-old boy at once, so that I tend to have experience. But yeah, I won't get into that. But the cinematography was something that, again, if it were in 4K, I wouldn't feel like the jump would be that big a leap from HD quality to 4K, because the lenses and the shots are just so hyper focused on one thing. Again, granted, a lot of the pictures are gorgeous. A lot of the set design is quite impressive, but the lenses kind of take away from that. The use of the fisheye lens.
Something you didn't like was occasionally the camera would whip very quickly left and then very quickly right, following a character's movements, for example. Like Bella being dragged around on the dance floor by Mark Ruffalo. Something like that. You didn't think it was very cinematic or served a purpose, especially.
Yeah. Visual storytelling with the camera, I didn't. A lot
of zooms, not crash zooms.
Oh, so the zooms, just in general, it was... I don't know. I'm using my film school brain, and they told me unnatural. Zooming is unnatural. That's why people don't do it. And that's stapled in my head, whether or not it's right, wrong, good or bad. It's just, wait, this is unnatural. Why is this being done? But rules are made to be bent.
Yeah.
Especially
we live in a technological age now. People may not be able to zoom with their eyeballs, but they can zoom whatever's on the screen at their leisure. So.
Yeah. You brought up Mark Ruffalo. I kind of traced back before I got to him.
Yeah.
So the lawyer that puts together this document for...
Yeah, the marriage contract for Bella and Max.
Right. Mark Ruffalo. Woo! That he is the lawyer, and then he asks to use the restroom. And instead of going to the restroom, he needs to see what woman is worth this contract. And then because Bella's character is still kind of...
She's just beginning to form complete sentences.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
And
Anyway. She's discovered the joys of masturbation. At some point watching the film, I mentioned that there was something innocent about her disrobing and running around with her nipples out. I said, children do this. Children masturbate even. And right after I said that, we got a shot of Bella's legs. And I was like, oh dear, is she? Okay, movie's going there. And Bella is delighted. She thinks she's invented something. She's telling everybody, like, I've discovered I can make Bella happy when I want. And I'm going to show everyone how you can do the same. And they're like, no, we don't do this in polite society.
yeah, polite society. I think it's brought up a bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, that and Mark Ruffalo takes advantage, for a lack of a better term.
Yeah. He exploits Bella's newfound interest in the pleasures of self-interference, whatever.
Interference, yes.
Yeah. He goes ba-ba-ba-ba on her thighs and convinces her that, hey, you should go off and have adventures with me. And she's like, yeah, I'll do that. I'll marry Max afterwards. But for now, I want to go and have adventures.
Adventures, yeah.
And Willem Dafoe decides, well, if I don't let her go, then I'm going to lose her anyway. So I'll give her my blessing. And Max is just like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Husband to be. It's just like,
not sure about this. Okay.
But yeah, they go and start at Portugal.
Yeah.
And have
a bit of a fuck fest for a few days.
Holy shit, do they? It is a tryst among many trysts.
Yeah. Mark Ruffalo is quick to tell her that, with other dudes, you might not get such enjoyment out of the whole thing, but even I have my limits. So, give me a minute, my pet.
Right. And there are a couple of times where Mark Ruffalo plays himself up, even though he's a bit of a...
Yeah. Playing very much on her inexperience.
Right. Like, and he says he's the best at furious jumping.
As they call it,
which is what she calls sex.
Mm-hmm.
And she takes him at his word. And over the course of time, like you brought it up, the three in a row where they go 3 times and then he's kind of out of gas and she isn't. And you brought something up that was kind of interesting too. She would be sore at some point doing
this
that.
This is something that director Yorgos never addresses in Dogtooth, when everyone is just ready to go immediately. Like the mother and the father have very rapido sex on the couch with no foreplay whatsoever. It just doesn't seem to enter into the equation in his movies, I guess for matters of convenience and pacing, whatever. But yeah, Bella's quite happy. She has a couple pastries that Mark tells her, we don't eat too many of these at once.
You're jumping ahead a little bit, but yes. Her pastries, eclairs, I think they were. Oh, wait. Okay. No, I'm mixing the two. It's my fault, not yours. I apologize.
Yeah. Then I think...
The pastries, yeah.
There's a dinner party or something where she's talking inappropriately.
Yeah.
They're making little innuendos at the table, and she's like, "Oh, we're talking about his penis." And she's like, "No, you said the quiet part out loud."
Yeah, polite society. And then she says something about somebody being dead or something. He pulls Mark Ruffalo pulls her aside, and he's like, "Here's 3 or 4 terms. These are the only ones you can say."
Isn't the thing crisp? That would be an ecumenical matter. That kind of There's 3 stock phrases he gives her, and she sticks to them without.
Right.
Reading the room.
Yeah. If somebody was a bit more educated and snarky, you would think that some of the things that the Bella character does is just sarcastic as fuck. But one of the women at the table starts talking about a recently deceased member of her family or sick or terminal. And Bella uses some of the preloaded terminology, which is the complete opposite of what you would expect.
Yeah, she makes a bit of a faux pas.
Yeah, but she's only got a couple of phrases to say.
Yeah, Mark kind of dropped the ball on that one. Sorry, his character's name is Duncan.
Oh, Duncan. Yeah, thank you. Gray. I'm gonna have to show you Barbie now.
Yeah, I still haven't gotten around to it.
I don't entirely disagree, Gray, and I know how much you love Barbie. Dice says foreplay didn't exist in steampunk Victorian England.
There are some historical letters that survive that suggest the opposite.
Oh,
yeah, very saucy Victorian letters.
Take that, Dice. But yeah,
Who was the one guy who kept writing to his Nora saying, "Oh, your farts are so delightful, darling." He was into some very weird shit. I forget. He was a famous writer or poet or something of the other, and just a complete horn dog behind closed doors. And it's all preserved in his letters to his dear Nora.
I see. So, Bella's character is at the, like, I don't know how quickly the character ages, but curiosity is certainly a driving force for most of the movie, if not all of the movie.
She's getting the hang linguistically very quickly. Compared to a child, this would take about 10 years in real people time.
Right. And then so he puts Mark Ruffalo's characters, what again?
He starts
Vincent?
Duncan.
Duncan.
Remember the soft thighs scene?
That's a little bit later, but yes, I do. The tattoo?
Not a tattoo, that it's just a permanent marker, apparently.
Big in Victorian England too.
Yeah.
What about,
they have a bit of an argument that he tries to solve with sex, and he offers to go down on the lady and finds soft and softer written on her thighs. And she details a story like, oh, this man was telling me that, you know, it seemed like my thighs would be like the softest in the world. So we tested it and they were the softest in the world. So we wrote which was best.
Yeah. The naivete is adorable.
Duncan storms out and she's like, oh, no tongue play? Is that not happening?
Yeah. And Duncan's terminology gets much more vivid as their time together. He called her a cunting cunt, and I was like,
he did.
Wow. That's a line out of my vocabulary. Thanks there, buddy.
He's tremendously insulted by the idea that there's anybody else.
Yeah. So when you first meet him, he's like this smooth operator who talks about how he's the best, and you know, he just wants to have a fling.
Yeah, trust me. Don't even bother looking, because
right. And what is it? Is it the fact that she explored a bit where he takes her to the ship?
Yes, she goes wandering off in was it Lisbon, Portugal?
Right.
She has a bit of a solo adventure, eats a pastry, throws up, and
yeah, she eats too many. She's just like, this is awesome. Why only have one?
But
yeah.
She wakes up at some point and they're on a ship to continue their adventures. She's not entirely happy about this. She feels like she's been trapped by a man, ironically, who intended to pump and dump her by his own admission.
Right. And the thing is, he literally traps her. He puts her in a suitcase or something like that. Doesn't he give her the...
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So she wakes up in a suitcase. And yeah, this is after her first oral sex adventure outside of Duncan. And he's not happy with that at all.
No.
From a guy who's, you know, chuck and fuck. He's changed his tune quite a bit.
Yeah.
And suddenly he's this possessive, downright.
Seems to blame her for it too. Like she's bewitched him.
Right.
I'm a changed man, Bella. I'm never like this. Right.
And while it's never said, the whole I want to take advantage of a naive girl thing is so heavily implied, where no, nobody else can know about my secret.
Yeah.
And like he seems angry about it, that like this
that was maybe going on with Dafoe's character too, but maybe it was also he was trying to shield her from the world to an extent.
Yeah, like a protective father or a god. The fact that his name is
That's
God.
Right, Godwin.
Yeah.
We spend about 10 minutes thinking, oh, she's calling him God. Did he insist on that? But no, his name's Godwin.
Yeah. Again, another one where you're like, it takes a while to find out his name, and you're like, why is she calling him God? This is really creepy. When she's laying in bed with him, it was worse. It was just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
But yeah, the fact that Godwin lets her go is a bit of a step or three up on Duncan's character.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
we agree.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what he did was unruly, a little suspect, to say the very least. But
oh yes,
he didn't, hold her down
no,
from her exploration, whereas the Duncan character was downright possessive.
yeah. So she, as good as says, well, if I'm on the boat, I'm going to have as many adventures as my boat prison will allow. And she meets an older woman.
Oh, yeah. She starts talking to other people.
The old woman is past her sexual prime, which Bella can't quite fathom. And she's traveling with a man called Harry Astley, who's
he's a
cynicist
socialist, he says, right? Doesn't he say he's a socialist? Or no, cynic, sorry. The other one's a socialist. He's a
little nihilistic. He believes that people are inherently bad.
Yeah, he kind of challenges her on everything, where it's like, oh, why do you feel that way? Because blank happens.
He doesn't seem to have ill intentions towards her, though.
No.
One of a few who doesn't.
But yeah, they're kind of telling Bella about Duncan's predatory ways.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a scene where Duncan loses his shit and he threatens to kill the old lady, and she's just kind of like amused.
She's like, I like to see you try.
Yeah, it was so weird. Where I mean, with the exception of sex, tense scenes don't have the same play to them that they would normally. Like, a possible murder, and it happens again later.
Yeah,
where you have a moment for some tension, some conflict, and it just kind of gets played off like a joke.
Yeah.
And that was a little frustrating. Just a little, not a tremendous amount.
I think in terms of where this film goes, if it was French extremism, Bella would learn some very, very hard lessons, but
yeah, she wouldn't be so into it by the second act.
But the film doesn't go there, and I think it's more. There might be a couple reasons for it. It's just not that kind of film. Well, it's not out to punish Bella, and she doesn't have a lot of rage for what happens to her.
Well, yeah, the talking about not punishing Bella, she discovers with the help of the cynic, poor people.
Yeah.
And she has her first moment of like,
we see a shot that could be like from Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah, it's not pleasant.
We do hear about rape. Harry says that they're robbing, raping, and killing each other, and if we'd swapped places, they would do the same to us.
Right. And she experiences her first she experiences her first bit of emotion. And since Duncan has won a bit of money at the casino on the ship,
he's so miserable that he's gambling.
Right. She takes all of that money and gives it to
she wants to walk down there herself and gift it to the poor, but a couple of boat staff, I don't know what their names would be.
Stewards, I don't know.
Something like that. They say, oh no, we're casting off in a second, ma'am. Well, can you make sure that these funds are correctly managed and given to the poor? And they're like, oh yeah, sure. We can do that. We'll take that off you.
And there's so they pocket it. And there's no real...
Yeah, they're never really...
it's just
they just sort of get away with that.
Yeah, the employees stole the money. You're stupid for falling for it. That's it. Poor people get fucked again. That's it. That's the end of it. Mark Ruffalo gets kicked out. Duncan gets kicked out for
merely evoking poverty.
Right. Which is, again.
I mean, they can't pay to stay on the cruise ship any longer. They pay by the day, apparently.
I was going to say, this is one of those moments where if this weren't a bizarro film where, just kind of at the whim of the director, I'd be like, wait a minute. If you take a cruise, you pay for those tickets in advance. But since we're on such a bizarre ride, it's just like, all right, thank God this isn't the real world, because I'd have questions, but go on, movie.
Imagine being kicked off a plane mid-flight because you ran out of funds. Well, the plane lands in Italy, but...
Yeah. So something you noticed and brought it up, they make their way to France, which is quite snowy. And you brought it up before I could I could
kind of a pathetic fallacy thing going on.
Yeah, about them being, it's an extension of their emotion.
Yeah, it's all very bleak.
Right. And now it's because I said I don't remember Paris ever having snow like that, and then you were the one who brought it up. Like, oh yeah, but it's because they've suffered loss and they're empty. And I was like, oh yeah, shit. But that's
it doesn't. I mean, if the weather was lovely, they'd still be poor. But
yeah, but
the weather helps.
It's another. I mean, you said it, a pathetic fallacy. Whether it be rain, if you can use weather to your cinematic advantage, then
yeah,
it's a nice little touch.
What did you say? The cruel crawling foam? Foam doesn't do that.
Yeah, it's a nice touch.
Yeah. So Mark Ruffalo is sobbing by this point. He's like, "You have cost me everything, Bella. You have made me poor. What are we gonna do?"
Yeah, she took this arrogant cock, and he's just outright groveling at this point. She
says, like, this is an experiment. We've got nothing. Now let's see how we get out of this.
Yeah, which is another thing where I was like, yeah, I wish she could experience life as an actual poor person. Nice little vacation to just give money away, and then I don't know. The fact that the world's oldest profession is the thing that is going to be her savior.
World's oldest for a reason, I guess.
Yeah, but there's just a couple of things where I would have liked.
She would have liked to have been punished slightly. Consequences.
I'm not. She would have liked to. I'd like to see a little bit more challenge.
Yeah.
Other than, yeah, she's going to be a prostitute, and that's how she's going to figure out a lot of life's.
She finds a whorehouse, and the madam tells her, "All right, well, we rent the room for 10 francs. You let him cock you a bit," she says, "and he'll give you 30." And she's like, "Oh wow, he pays me. Fancy that."
Yeah, she's still curious.
What's the catch
about the furious dancing or furious? Not dancing.
Furious jumping.
Jumping. That's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she's had furious jumping with other people at this point.
Dice is being very funny on the comments, incidentally.
What? What?
I said Dice is being very funny on the comments. Excuse my voice.
Oh. Pay by the day cruising. You better be a good swimmer. Yes, indeed.
Sploosh.
So her first customer is somebody who's 3 thrusts and done.
Yep.
And she comes out of the brothel
holding some eclairs.
Yeah. And they're sitting on a bench, her and Duncan.
He assumes that she stole them, naturally.
Right.
She's like, "No, I earned them."
Yeah. And as he's eating one
he's like, "You're right. You are I mean, he was rubbish."
Yeah. Yeah. She says, "Oh, so, I was, when you told me you were the best lover, I wanted to test that," or something along those lines. And she's talking about how quick this guy was.
Yeah.
And she said it wasn't wholly unpleasant, or I forget the exact terminology because it's all weird except for cunt and cunt, which I was like, hey, I say that.
Finally, they're talking my language.
Yeah. I thought I speak broken.
Duncan bursts into furious sobs and says that whoring is the worst thing a woman can do.
Yeah. And he does say whoring.
Yeah. A hoary whore that whores. So he throws away his eclair and her eclair because they just can't have nice things, apparently.
Yeah. She makes him sick with the way she achieved eclairs. So she, without saying she gets turned off, she basically says, I don't really find you.
I'm fed up with your shit now.
Yeah. So she decides to live.
Oh my goodness, sorry about the camera.
So she decides
nodding in agreement.
So she decides to take the brothel on in more ways than one.
Yeah.
And if you weren't tired of Emma Stone's nude body, you might be over the course of the second act, because Jesus.
Yeah, there's a bit of a montage.
I'll say.
Even Rocky had a montage.
But yeah, she
All part of the discovery, I suppose.
yeah, she figures out what she likes, and what she works up like this questionnaire thing.
Yeah.
Where it's sort of like dating before they get down to business.
She makes a lovely new friend from the whorehouse.
Yes, that's the one
a
who's
young
socialist.
socialist woman. What's her name? Sabine, something like that. She's
something
very
French, right? Yeah.
Very French. Who sort of agrees with Bella's philosophy of, well, why don't we pick them, and then the men will have less of a sense that we're offended by their very presence, rather than have them pick us. The Madame explains that no, this is how the whoring business works, ladies. Trust me. And that some men enjoy that they don't enjoy it.
Right.
Which is a foreign concept.
Which goes back to what I was talking about before with, some people, the looks on the woman's face isn't the entire make or break moment there. You'd be surprised what people are turned on by. So yeah, that gets covered in the...
The lad turns up that he wants to demonstrate to his twin boys, not his twin boys, his young boys.
Yeah.
Anyway.
There's like an education thing happening.
Yeah. It's like that chapter of The Naked Ape. It's just like, all right, this is how we do it.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Oh, The Naked Ape. It's a book about human physiology and evolution and development. And there's a chapter that goes into the sex. Like in spurious detail. Like the earlobes are very erogenous for most. Like, okay, fair. Thank you for sharing your, the fruits of your studies. Anyway, so montage happens. At some point, she and her lady friend also have a bit of no strings fun.
Yeah, yeah. She finally learns about members of the same sex. As curious people do. This is her college phase.
Yeah, employee discount, might as well.
The guy said that.
Yeah.
Is it still free, or is it free? But what is it? She gets a letter from...
Again, the lesbian scene isn't done like gratuitously. There aren't close-up lingering shots. It's just kind of her lying back and sort of going, but okay.
Yeah. And if this movie didn't have sexual exploration, there'd be a lot of emptiness to this movie, because it wouldn't be nearly as long.
Yeah. That's quite a bit of her self-discovery. Although they, go some way to explain that she's also reading books. She starts that on the cruise ship. And
right. All right. So hold on. There's something I want to discuss, because I almost did it before. And it's something that I've brought up with you at least one or two times. I know I've spoken about it with Gray off camera. And it's interesting. I've said something in regards to people who aren't mentally their age.
Right.
If somebody has some disorder where, as far as
if they're able to consent, you mean?
Right. Mentally disabled, 28 years old, but they're got the mind of a 10-year-old. This kind of explores in that what if scenario I've brought up a couple times. And I don't want to bring up their names, because I don't want to glorify any of that. But there was a household that you introduced me to on YouTube, where they locked their kids in just terrible, terrible situations. And there are these they're adults now, but there
were 13 members of the 13 children in this family.
Right. And a couple of them are well north of 18 years old, but they sound and speak like children.
Their development has been severely stunted on purpose. They've been kept isolated, abused, barely educated, if that. They have to teach themselves and their siblings English. And, like we said, their development is lacking.
Right. And
even once they escaped, their torment, public services were also lacking.
Right. And the thing that I was concerned with was one of the first things that, one of these daughters picked up on was TikTok.
Yes.
The mentality of a 10-year-old, and
she's a grown woman, admittedly, but her development's been stunted. Right. Arguably, she opens herself up to predators, trolls, right. Who knows what on the internet.
With the same mentality that...
But it's difficult because without the internet, she wouldn't have made, the connections in the first place to know that she was being abused.
Right.
She had people on her YouTube channel saying like, hey, do you guys ever go outside? Have you been eating? It's tricky.
Right. But TikTok, for somebody who's got the body of a 22-year-old, but the brain of a 10-year-old, could be the most dangerous thing for somebody who's naive like that. And it kind of plays into what we're looking at here. And these people didn't have a scientist to teach them certain aspects where they can study the human anatomy over the person's shoulder. And it kind of speaks to that what if, and especially considering the brain is that of an infant.
Literally in this case.
Right. Do we, in regards to Poor Things, that is, do we hold the same regards as we would for a child who is that age? Or is it just the body that we're concerned with as far as what's...
It is a legit question. And that I've seen people in comments online, speaking about Poor Things, that it just felt like they were watching the essay of a child, throughout, that Bella had the wherewithal to go out and explore as she wished, but that fundamentally she should have been reined in and protected and wasn't capable of consent, perhaps. I mean, certainly Duncan, Mark Ruffalo's character, takes advantage, but Bella doesn't realize that she is being taken advantage of.
But the same thing happens with the money, where she wants to dump out all of their available funds to poor folk.
Again, conveniently, she doesn't get assaulted, at least as far as we're led to understand. The film just doesn't go there, probably for, reasons.
It's not that I wanted to see the character assaulted. I just wish there was some conflict in being that naive.
It is interesting as well that the character is in the body of a fully developed, sexualized woman, that she has pretty privilege. She's a very conventionally attractive woman that people would probably like to sleep with.
Right.
If she was very plain or older looking or male, like the original Frankenstein's monster, that it would be a very different story, I think. So that's undoubtedly on purpose.
Well, it seems like it's a shortcut of sorts for the sake of the story that they wanted to tell.
Yeah.
Because if you make it one of the men that pays for her company, if you make that person the Frankenstein monster body, then they're not going to have the same shortcuts in society as somebody who looks like Emma Stone.
Yeah, I mean, in Frankenstein, the monster is hideous. He was constructed out of parts that on their own were supposed to be very beautiful, but in combination, he was ghastly, livid, black lips, stitches all over. So his creator flees him immediately. The creature has to go into hiding. He wants to better himself. He turns to books and learning, and he tries to make connections, but of course everyone flees from him because he looks like a living nightmare. So he suffers, by virtue of looking the way he does. He doesn't get the advantages that Bella Baxter does.
Yeah, and that's kind of what, Frankenstein suffers a certain conflict, and...
Yeah, poor Frankenstein.
Well, you know what I'm trying to say? That there's...
He's a deadbeat dad. He created the thing and immediately spurned it.
No, I'm talking about all of them. Frankenstein, Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah.
They experience drama.
Sure.
And it's just something that I feel like is missing from Poor Things.
The camera's being disobedient.
No, because you keep putting your hand into the shot, and then I told you it tracks the hands too much. in all fairness, there are monster fuckers out there, says Dice.
True. That could have been its own kind of movie.
Yeah, it's just there. If these situations weren't presented in the movie, I wouldn't be thinking about them. But
yeah,
because she shows naivety in different situations, it's like, you really didn't explore that nearly as much as you did sex. And I'm not trying to complain about it. It's just, if you want to make it about
it just happens to be that sexuality is a means to her agency. Prostitution is what she turns to because it's the easiest and because she wants sex anyway, so it all kind of works out. Like she does later in the film make strides to becoming a doctor, and because we're in alternative Victorian England, there are no barriers to this apparently. She's all ready for the exam by the end of it. Like, fine, the patriarchy is a different thing apparently. I don't know, it's not very well explained, but yeah, she turns to whoring because it's easy, and women can, I suppose, if you. I'm sure that there is someone out there who is willing to pay for that.
Right, and again, the fact that she is Emma Stone, it's
most men don't have the option of auctioning off their panties, let's say.
Right. A little bit easier for a woman that's looking to sell themselves than a man, but that's other than that, it's a very, very feminist movie with the independence, the subtext, and like you said, her own agency.
It's trying to be anyway.
I would say it does it. It does it.
She takes her self-discovery very seriously, and she wants to improve the world, much like her father was trying to do, I suppose.
Right, but
Defoe, whatever.
She also has a bit of a non-emotional approach to everything.
Yeah,
and I don't know if that's.
She doesn't really have a concept of exclusivity. Like she does have some affection for Max McCandles, but she doesn't want to restrict herself just to him.
Yeah, they have a bit of an open relationship, to say the very least.
Yeah.
But again, it's physical attraction doesn't drive everything. And it just feels like that appears to be.
This is a comment I sent to you, and you had a lot of thoughts about it, but supposedly this is a film about what if a woman had no shame, none of the shame that the patriarchy ascribes to her. Even though in the film, admittedly, Bella doesn't have periods, body hair, shame.
The fact that the person who said that listed periods as something that women should have shame about, it was just like, what? That's insane.
I know women who have been shamed for their periods.
So that's fine, but that's not like.
When I was a teenager, there was a discussion about like, okay, the dog got in the bathroom bin, they found something, they tore it apart in the living room. Can you be more careful?
Yeah, but that's not shame.
I was pretty red in the face.
But
I see what you're saying.
Not every woman feels shame about going through, Mother Nature's reminder that you're a woman.
You're supposed to, like, for the.
But again, that's
for the sake of public decorum. Don't talk about it. Don't be like, oh, I'm just going to go change my tampon.
I just don't like that the person listed that a period is something for a woman to be ashamed of, like that.
Did you know that period products have tax because they are billed as luxury items?
What? So what? You're supposed to be shamed by it because there's tax on it?
No, but clearly people think that they're not a daily necessity.
I don't disagree with you, Emily. I there shouldn't be tax on it. I agree with you, but in the same breath, I don't think women should feel shame for
What's the distinction between something that's a shame and something that's taboo?
Why don't you ask the person who posted this ridiculous comment?
The period thing doesn't come up in the film anyway.
Right. It's just that the things that this incel listed as things for women to be ashamed of, and that the character in the movie doesn't feel it. For the fact that we're even bringing it up in conjecture with the movie itself is just I don't know. Go on.
I guess what he was trying to say is that in practice, Bella is much like a toddler, and toddlers have no shame. They run around in their knickers. They don't know to be ashamed yet. They have not
She
learned
means
that.
underwear.
Sure. For fuck's sake, this camera. Anyway.
Go on.
So they don't have a moral compass yet. They don't have inhibitions. They haven't learned the social graces. You know, I think that's what he was trying to say. That was the story they were trying to tell with Bella, that she wasn't yet socialized into being polite and putting away certain things about herself.
But that's not true, because there are moments where she gets taught about society or politeness in society, or whatever, and then she slowly adapts to it. So
if she's given a good reason to do so.
Fine. I don't know. I don't think, she learns
at the dinner scene when she's taking apart the innuendos and just laying them flat on the table. We laugh because, in a way, yeah, it's kind of funny that we can throw about innuendo with the understanding that, we don't say the quiet part out loud.
Yeah, but she learns that what people do as far as euphemisms are concerned. She learns because it seems like it's a convenient out, because at the end of the second act, say, she's now avoiding saying certain things for the sake of hurting somebody's feelings.
Right.
While not understanding the feelings aspect, she knows to not say certain things. So I feel like that isn't really valid.
By the near end of the film, there are certain things she still hasn't. The self-preservation instinct. At the point when, so we haven't got there yet, but her old husband turns up and says, I will kill you if you try to leave. And she's like, well, I'm going to. Like, no, Bella, maybe you should try and sneak out.
No, before that, the fact that he shows up because Mark Ruffalo's character is just vindictive as all fuck. And
the thought of violence to her person, that maybe she should keep her mouth shut, doesn't occur to her at many points in the film.
Well, that, yes, that kind of goes to what I was talking about before. But the fact that her ex-husband shows up and is like, I want you to come with me. And she just goes with him. And he gives her no reason to go back with him.
No,
and she does.
Curiosity, like she's trying to discover herself, which only this guy has the answers to, apparently.
And I
think
all
that's
bullshit.
What they're trying. Yeah.
So
at some point she finds out God when, what his experiment has all been about. And she's like, that wasn't cool, man.
Well, yeah, she eventually forgives him to whatever.
He's dying of cancer bubbles. I must assume they never explain the orb thing still.
Yeah, the Finn Balor bubbles.
Yeah. Yeah, they finally overwhelm his immune system.
Yeah, so bizarre, but they never really explain it.
I didn't do anything.
Fucking camera.
Is there a way to make it stay still?
You cannot put your hand in front of your face because it
Is there a way to make it not pan? Out of interest.
No. It's that
all right.
jib thing.
I'm gonna stay very still.
Just your hair is fine. Just leave it.
Okay, I'll do my best.
What was happening?
Right, so cancer bubbles. So she returns and has a bit of a discussion with Max McCandles, excuse me.
Her fiance that got dicked over from Jump Street.
Yeah. But he's still like, well, you're back here now, and if you still want to get married, we can do that. She's like, yeah, all right.
Yeah. So the movie embraces the whole open relationship aspect. And I think something that just doesn't get touched on, it's the anti-traditional movie where, romance and emotions are so heavy.
Yeah.
But this movie, they're just not present.
True.
Like, I would say one of something that I sort of appreciate normally is a lack of emotion, lack of romance. But at the same time, if you're going to have relationships be such an integral part of the movie,
yeah,
that guy, Max her first fiance gets really fucked over.
Yeah.
And there's no emotion behind any of it from
He's
him.
the disposable fiance from every rom-com, except that he does kind of get the girl in the end by just waiting around long enough.
Yeah, and again, it's another thing where it's like this is conflict, and there's just this kind of meh.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm not going to try to control you, and I'm not saying that control is the thing that I'm looking for. It's just give her some sort of inner conflict with the situation, or him inner conflict with the situation where I don't know. It just seems like they present some situations and are fine just kind of contriving some of the answers. Like this works. They're open. Feelings aren't really a thing. I don't know.
My take on it.
She's an infant, so she doesn't have emotions. Fuck it.
My take on it was that she's quite fond of Max and is very willing to settle down with him. But any man who comes into her life is competing with her desire for her own agency and discovery. It's not so much they're competing for each other, but that it's that versus being alone and continuing on the self-discovery with nobody. So based on those terms, Max decides, yeah, you do what you want and I'm going to support you.
Jacob says he's an incomplete rendering, which is my biggest problem with the film.
Yeah, his character was not flat especially, but he fades into the background a little bit, but by design, I suppose.
Right.
He's shy and retiring and just kind of happy to be there.
Well, the other thing, they
make a replacement while she's gone, and he's just not as fond of that one because she's not the brightest. She doesn't progress as fast.
Right. We don't get like the history behind. Was that woman pregnant with her current brain?
For some reason, this one stays at 2 months old.
Yeah, a little touched, special. Not the same program as far as progress is concerned. But shit, what was I saying? I forgot what I was saying.
Right, so she comes home, she agrees to marry Max McCandles, finds that her father figure, Godwin, is dying. He turns up to the wedding stuffed full of heroin for his ailments and cocaine because he's partial to cocaine, which gave us the biggest laugh in as many minutes.
Right.
The dialogue is very good in this. It's entertaining.
That was the one thing that I like. It kept me around, where the dialogue was just so quirky and snappy, and I was like, I fucking hate the way this movie looks, but god damn it if they're not Kevin Smithing me with the dialogue.
She's not the most loquacious person, but the words she does use, she puts them together to startling effect. Very efficient vocabulary, I would say. And just the bluntness of some, like the madam who says, let him cock you a bit. Like, that's very, okay.
Yeah, I used to enjoy the fact that I said whoring, but apparently that's not incredibly original. Or cunting.
In England, that's just
said cunting.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what the hell I was... So the second act, the third act, the marriage.
Yeah. So Ruffalo crashes the wedding with the former husband,
ex-lover,
whose name escapes me for the moment.
Yeah.
He sort of says that father figure must be a demon because he's coughing up blood, and they're like, he's cancer, you unimaginable twit, and he's like, oh. And that's pretty much the last we see of him.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, why would Mark Ruffalo give her another lover? Granted, it was before she had the operation. Why? Like, it's not going to help you get her back. So, like, what?
It's purely a spiteful move, I think, just to disrupt her life even a bit more.
Yeah. Oh, so that was dumb. So at a certain point, she even admits to kind of being tired of sex, or not tired of sex, but like it's lost its luster with her.
She grew tired of the whoring, but she was grateful for the experience. Again, none of the female rage or bitterness or Just like, well, I didn't like it, but it's all part of the rich tapestry.
Right. I just wish there was other things like, all right, so you explored everything there is to explore about sexuality and having sex, but you're a curious, downright academic studier of life.
Yeah.
What is the next journey? What else are you going to find out about while running on the field tests? And there's just none of that. Like we get the cover to cover study on sex and just really nothing else. And it's like, all right, so
she gets a handle on philosophy for a little bit. She's interested in socialism and
yeah, but those are due to people that she meets.
Yeah. I mean, so is the sex. It started as a solo thing, but other people quickly schooled her in at least the mechanics of the thing.
Right. Well, the fact that she like, I don't know, I guess the other thing they show you is the fact that she's taken over the family business, as it were.
Yeah.
Which, that's something, but I don't know. There's as I think the movie's incredible. I gave it 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
But the cinematography, until somebody explains otherwise, I just don't see purpose for a lot of those lenses. And some questions with where they drive you to the cliff and just kind of turn around. And there's a couple of moments where it's a real opportunity for some exploration and conflict and emotion, and they just kind of don't do it. It's like an academic cover of everything with the exception, everything outside of sexuality. And again, it still feels quite feminist in its subtext, which is, I'm not hating on it. It's just, it's a really unique story that if I recognize the internet the way I thought I did, they would be up in arms about this movie being woke. And not as far as I've seen, nobody's really talking about it. And that's interesting.
Yeah. At the moments when we're laughing at Bella's expense, is it kind of at our own expense to be like, oh, to be stupid, to not know how cruel people can really be?
Well, sometimes, yes, but sometimes I'm like, I mean, I have this mentality. I've brought it up a couple of times. She's not really, the mind of a 30-year-old or whatever.
No.
It kind of troubled me. And I don't have kids. So like the fact that I have like this parental, I don't know how, like I mean, what was it? There was like a couple of shots in the beginning where she was nude. And I was just like, I'm not comfortable looking at this.
Yeah, it's fine. You feel protective, I suppose.
Well, that and
when I see videos of brides being cake smashed at their own weddings, I get some impotent, like, father of the bride type rage. Like, that's my baby. I'm gonna garrote that man. But yeah, I see what you're saying. Like, it's fine to feel uncomfortable on her behalf because she doesn't know, and if she did, she'd know that this was wrong.
Yeah, looking at a bride taking cake in the face and somebody with a child's mind exploring sex are, I would argue, a little different. But
sure, that was a bad example, but I was going for the parental feelings angle. Every time
Gray says, every time he busts out the 4mm porthole lens, it takes me out of the film. I agree.
Maybe they were trying to hide a boomer operator in the far left of the shot.
That's shitty filmmaking then. Like if that's why, like what?
I doubt it. It's probably a stylistic.
I hope not, because this is his 5th or 6th major motion picture. I mean, Dogtooth did it. Well, whatever.
I'm sure it must be a voyeuristic thing, or just to.
Then why not do it for the whole movie, though? Like
the whole movie is voyeurism. We're just watching Bella get schooled.
Literally.
Yeah. Right. So previous husband turns up. She goes with him to discover more about her previous life, like who she is, this knowledge that has been locked away from her by the guy that brought her into this world, Godwin, dear old dad. So she goes off with the new husband and discovers that she was like him, cruel to the servants, just not a very nice person.
Sorry, go ahead.
He begrudgingly forgives her for the whoring, although he says that it's the kind of thing that he would be well within his rights to go out and murder her for.
Right.
Which is not a very nice thing to say. He sort of turns up as to make all the other guys look better, I would say.
But
like, just in case you were wary about Duncan and, feckless, harmless, pathetic Duncan. But here's someone who really...
It goes back to my previous issue. She's educated at this point. Why the fuck would she just go with him because he said, I used to be your husband? Like, what about
what an adventure, isn't it?
Is it?
Well, I don't know. I guess she figures, like, this is my last chance before I get tied down.
But at that point, she was independent, and she had learned certain things about humans and being shitty. What did he present to her? The independent, sexually awakened, whatever. What about his... you used to be married to me, so...
It seemed odd, considering she knew that she had committed suicide, even 9 months pregnant as she was.
Right.
With herself.
The fact that never got like, I committed suicide while pregnant, and this was the guy that I ran away from.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go.
Maybe he's part of the problem, yeah. She only considers that afterwards when she finds out what a piece of shit he was. Like, oh yeah, now I see why I might have killed myself. I must have been very unhappy.
Yeah, but he just like outright says what he's planning on doing. Oh, no, wait. She overhears the plan.
Oh, yeah. He's going to, they go into like female genital mutilation talk.
Yeah. Like declitation.
Yeah. Very much like Ruth from The Girl Next Door. It's like, this will take care of the problem.
You've got to stop mentioning other movies with huge spoilers.
There aren't very many movies where there's traumatic clit injury. And for the same purpose, to like,
I will be covering
make her less troublesome.
I will be covering that for who would like that. So
okay,
I don't want to rob us of potential views.
Yeah. Anyway, doctor's like, this will sort your wife out, and she sort of considers it. She's like, well, part of me thinks it would be nice not to be so curious, to not wonder. She's reached a level of intelligence where she's no longer happy. They say that intelligence equals unhappiness.
Also adulthood.
Ignorance is bliss, whatever you want to call it. But ultimately she's like, no, I think I'm going to leave now. And he's like, I'll kill you if you leave.
Yeah. Locks her in.
Yeah.
More trapping.
Pulls the gun.
Right.
Which do you even know what that is, Bella? Have you seen a gun before?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's another one.
No self-preservation instinct. No, she's been quite lucky on her journeys not to be, garroted or choked or anything like that.
Yeah. And again, it's another thing that I get it. Again, 4 out of 5, I gave this movie. It's just for the world that they presented, I'm fine with it. I certainly have a couple of issues, cinematography being chief amongst them. But I get why putting this movie in an indistinct time period, why like it deflects from certain questions. Like phones don't exist for whatever Zeppelins exist, but not phones. And
she sends them weird doodly letters with
right. And then he says she's deep throating a train or something like that. I forgot what the fuck it was.
As you do.
Right. But like they present some of the issues within this world, yet still just kind of take shortcuts out of the situation. And that to me is frustrating. Like, oh, a gun. Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, she shoots him in the foot. Would have made a clean escape, except that she doesn't want him to die. So drags old hubby to the laboratory, and she has all the notes in order to a full brainectomy is going to be done.
Right.
Meanwhile, Godwin is on his deathbed, so him, her, and Max McCandles, they all get in bed together, and they're like, "Oh well, it was good while it lasted."
Yeah, they don't fuck. They just kind of.
No, of course not.
Well, just let me make it clear.
Yeah, film doesn't go that far. So it kind of leads you to believe that maybe Godwin's brain is going in the old husband, like that he'd be giving a new lease.
Yeah, they give you a little misdirection there.
Yeah, but that's not humiliating enough for the old husband. So no, he gets to have a goat's brain instead.
Yeah, except it's the husband with a brain of a goat.
Yeah.
And he's just bleeding at the end. It's bleating.
Yeah.
Meh.
Meh. The first time I heard it, I was like, that goat bleating sounded very human. Did they just get him? Oh, I see.
Right.
It's the happy ending. She gets, to study for the doctor's exam. And she's got her new husband and her French girlfriend and the house and the goat man.
Right.
And that's what every woman wants, I think.
Is it?
It's pretty much ask the women in chat. I think they'd agree with me. No, I'm joking. But she's pretty happy by the end of it. She's pretty well actualized and, untraumatized, all things considered.
And again, this is such a...
And there's still more to go. She still wants to learn and improve others.
The one thing that I'll give this movie absolute credit for, and I brought this up, I forgot what else we were watching, but this movie, from start to finish, does an incredible job of character development with the Bella character.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit. You literally watch somebody grow up, except they're in the same body. And
and it took 2 months. Well, we don't know how long.
Yeah. And they really explore sex.
Mm-hmm. Not so much with the new girl who's just into hammering shit and tormenting the maid, or I don't know if they ever explain who the elderly woman is, the live-in assistant.
If they did, I don't remember it very well.
Yeah, but she's still kind of pootling around and not getting any smarter, but she seems okay.
Right.
Just like the failed second experiment.
Not sure McCandles is her husband in the end?
No. I mean, we never see them actually get married, but I guess it's implied. Maybe not. Maybe I don't suppose it's totally necessary anymore. After all, what is the contract for? Is it just like for the sexy tax benefits, or
what, the one that Duncan put together?
I suppose, yeah. Like, why marry Max McCandles? Like, what's the point of the contract?
And that's what I'm talking about. There's certain aspects where it just kind of, as far as emotions are concerned, why do that? And then why did we do it after married? That what?
Why did we get married? It was because to be able to live on the same. No. Yes, sir. Sorry, sir.
That's why. We're in front of an audience, Emily. You don't admit that anywhere.
Okay, fair enough.
Because God knows they watch my shit.
Right. But the fact of the matter is we could not live in the same country if we weren't.
Yes, but we were massively in love.
Of course. Yeah, that's convenient. That also, yes. Of course. You know what I mean? Marriage as a construct.
I'm never going to be allowed in this country ever again.
Well, originally it was for...
Please stop talking about our relationship.
I'm not talking about ours, but originally it was for legal monetary benefits, like the dowry. That was the whole thing, right?
Oh, what they got married for? Yeah.
Yeah, back in the olden days.
Right.
It was for proprietary reasons. So maybe it was something like that. Maybe, I mean, we're talking Victorian era shit. Somebody get the police.
Yeah, I'm glad that's funny to you. I'm the one who's got to deal with the goddamn border security. They're going to be like, on a video marked March 9th, you...
I mean, what's to stop someone, a couple from just being boyfriend, girlfriend until the day they die?
Well, yeah, but...
Why get the piece of paper?
You took the really longest road to get to that while risking my Jailed them.
I didn't. Why would you be getting thrown in jail? Like it's all above board. We got married for good reasons.
Yeah. They just find it's enough. I'm not giving them any more material.
We've got 6 years of online proof that everything's legit, don't you think?
No.
No?
No.
Oh, all right.
I've been detained 4 times.
Yeah, it's my turn, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
I should get detained at least once.
I'll say. All right, enough with the comparisons to our whatever.
We'll cut this out in the edit.
Yeah, I'll say. If you're listening to this, we took a really weird path, but you're never going to hear it.
The point is, does Bella need to get married in order to prove her love to Max, or like what?
And I would say that considering the journey that she went on, the answer should be no. She doesn't need to be married. It just feels like, wrapping a bow around, well, he waited for her, but there's no like of that romantic emotion behind it. It's just like, yeah, all right, well, thanks.
She's fond enough, to stick about.
Dice says for our anniversary, Emily will be detained.
Yay. It's coming up next month, isn't it?
The 18th of March. No, April.
I'll try visit. They'll put me in jail.
Right. And they'll show you this video and they'll be like, see? Nice try. 4 times so far. There's still time. Yeah, every time I come back, they're testing it. So
that's sort of what. Do you think that there is sequel potential in this?
I don't know. I mean, by somebody exploring humanity angle, it could be a franchise.
It could.
But it's up for a ton of awards. I think if it wins a couple of Oscars, do they really want to make this like a series or even multiple movies?
Potentially they could. They could follow the new girl. Maybe she becomes an adopted daughter to them, or maybe we find out, that it's a prequel. We find, we go to Godwin in his youth. We find out what all the facial scarring was about. We see him make the French bulldog chicken.
But I think exploring further takes away the mystique and takes away the.
It leaves a couple things unanswered, eh?
But that's kind of the quirkiness of it. I don't know if you start answering questions. As much as I love Lost, when they started answering questions, it was like it's losing some of its mystery, and I don't know how I feel about that.
But weren't people so mad about the ending that it didn't explain enough?
No, I'm not getting into Lost with this, but yes,
we don't have the time.
We have to go back.
We have to go back.
So what? Not the camera.
Maybe there's something on the ceiling that's more interesting.
No. What was your score, Emily?
I don't know if I think I would agree with you. I'd say like a
8,
4, 4.5 maybe.
Out of 5?
Well, yeah, if we're doing 5s.
Well,
I usually do
10.
Yeah, because you can split it up
8.
a bit more.
What? 10 or 5?
Yeah, so I'm not doing 4.5, which is the same thing as 9. Right.
So 9 out of 10?
Sure. 9 3/4. I don't know how we're dividing. I'd give it between 8 and 9, say.
Yeah, so between 4 and a 4.5 out of 5.
Okay.
I'm just speaking in letterboxed for everybody.
Sure.
Because I only have the stars. And
was it Stardust that had only 4 stars?
Was it Stardust? I don't know.
It's been.
That app sucked.
I don't know if it's still around even.
Nope.
You can still see on my old videos, like, here's my Stardust handle.
Yeah.
There's no link, but here's how you find me.
Yeah.
I used it twice. Yeah, I mean, you've already said which areas were lacking for you. The cinematography, some things skipped over, or certain elephants in the room that they didn't quite acknowledge, or
right. It was an interesting exploration of some things that I've wondered, and like this was like the case study where it's just like not helping my theoretical question, but why why is it 8.5?
Yeah.
Why is it almost a 10 for you?
I don't know. I found it diverting. I thought it raised interesting questions. It didn't answer everything, but it, it made me think, I suppose. It made me really examine my values and be like, oh, well, I suppose if it doesn't bother you, I guess it doesn't matter. Does it? It raised interesting in a way because it's a theoretical fictionalized scenario that you couldn't replicate in real life. It's weird, anachronistic steampunk Victorian England where a female Frankenstein with the brain of her own baby is running around doing whatever the fuck she wants. And that just doesn't apply to real life, but that kind of forgives some of the things that happen in the film in a way.
Yeah, yes and no.
Yeah.
Yorgos is an interesting dude. That's something that I will say.
It's just navigating this new ethical patriarchal landscape is what I found really interesting. And
yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. I just feel like there are certain aspects where we kind of had some contrivance.
Yeah. And some people will find it problematic, and that's absolutely okay. Especially if you've had certain personal experiences and you've been learned some hard truths yourself. Seeing Bella get off fairly easily, I would say. I don't know. Maybe you think, what kind of message is this movie trying to send? It's just telling a very specific story.
Yeah, I think again, if you have a certain background or a certain experience with sexual encounters, you might find some of the
Is it empowering, liberating, or is it just like, what the fuck are you even trying to say?
Yeah, I mean they by all it seems to avoid some heavy duty drama. Whereas if somebody was a prostitute and that naive, they'd get hurt.
Yeah, they would.
In more ways than one. And to be naive like that as a filmmaker.
Yeah. Sexuality is not the sole way through which women can self-empower.
Right. And
Absolutely
that was kind
not.
of troubling for me. And, you know, if you're going to have sexuality be that important, then show some of the negative aspects of it.
Bella needed more female friends.
Right.
She has a couple.
Right.
But
well, I mean, it goes back to the like when a Duncan threatens to kill that older woman on the boat, and she's like entertained by it, and it's like, what? Here's a moment where you can be really fucked up and serious, and you're just kind of shrugging it off.
She I mean, he's no Billy Zane in Titanic. He's not even that. He's weak. He can't lift her. There's stewards all around who can wrestle him down and do. She just finds it like, come an old lady, do your fucking worst.
Yeah, just that's just my nitpicks with it. Like I just if you're gonna present a situation, hit it.
The film doesn't examine a lot of things like racism. We see a glimpse of poverty and rape, but we never really go down and visit.
No. And it's not like I want to see that either. It's not like I'm like, oh man. It's just, you know, if you're gonna touch on it, then touch on it. Don't just kind of comb through it in passing.
Yeah, we're trapped with Bella.
Right.
We're seeing it entirely through her lens for the most part, and that's
her tiny little fisheye angle lens.
Exactly. In a world that doesn't apply to ours. You know, it's Alice in Wonderland, basically. What are people saying?
Gray said, Poor Things challenged me more than any other film last year. I had a hard time seeing why it was so heavily nominated and loved. It's challenging. It certainly is that. I agree with you in certain spirit, Gray, that it's absolutely challenging. And there are some things where we record this the night before the Oscars, so whatever awards it did or did not win, we are unaware of yet. So maybe a postscript after that thing is done. Jacob says, I would have had an issue with Bella getting out unscathed if the film were more grounded. It's not our world, though. Yeah, that's fair, and I understand that to
What
a
do
degree.
they call it? Plot armor?
Can you please stop speaking in
I apologize.
in douchebag lingo? I'm not. There's so much. I call it douchebag lingo, where it's like,
Yeah.
What is it? Fucking debate, bro.
The
where you
will
have
of
all
the
these-
author is keeping her safe, is what I'm trying to say. Because
Yeah,
she's the main character. She can't be eviscerated.
yeah.
Mm.
Jacob says, I wouldn't give it Best Picture, but I think it's the best of the nominees. Fuck the Oscars, by the way, just in general. Yeah. Yeah, they fucked up in the 94 class, so I have nothing else to say. Any closing thoughts, Emily? We've talked very long.
Yeah. I'm glad we watched it together. We've disagreed on some things, but I think we're both glad that we had the experience of watching it and talking about it.
Yeah, it's again, it's something. While I didn't like the way it looked, the dialogue and the angle in which the story was going certainly kept me intrigued at the very least. Not like a car accident where you just are slowing down to see the wreck, but more of a Kevin Smith type thing where it doesn't look that great, but the dialogue is of a certain snappiness where it's like, all right, where are you going with this?
Yeah. It's got a dark comedy thing going on,
Oh,
which makes it
absolutely.
much more tolerable. If it was taking itself too seriously, it would be unwatchable, I think.
Yeah. And just some of the bizarre, peculiar things that happen, like you said, the cancer bubbles. We don't know if that's what it is, but in the beginning of this stream, Willem Dafoe's character just
sets the tone a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's just what? Well, not only that, like
I loved seeing Max at the dinner table with him, just watching them.
Yeah,
he doesn't ask. He's just like
the chicken pig combinations and all the weird animal combos in the back is just more of the same. Just interesting. Yeah. She's a Mary Sue. Did they say that? Because that's oh boy.
She has flaws in the way of being
absolutely
naive, stubborn.
And she starts off as a mental pudding. So I don't,
so there is that.
There's definitely a journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's about all the thoughts I had.
Yeah.
I believe.
Well, thank you for not only watching it, Em, but staying up here at 3 a.m. to discuss a movie that was
Is it really 3 a.m.? My goodness.
What?
Is it really 3?
Yep.
Wow.
3 a.m. here.
The witching hour.
Right. We're going to go do witching. If anybody has anything to address, keep in mind we're talking about Poor Things.
Mm-hmm.
And
what was it in French? Pauvre creature? Pauvre. I can't. I'm sorry. It's been a long day.
Yeah. We'll open it up to the chat for, I don't know, 2 minutes or so.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob says his most energetic film, it doesn't have the lethargic energy of most of his films. Yeah, I mean, if you go ahead.
I've seen clips of The Favorite, and it seems very heavy, like a period drama. It's slow. It gives you time to really mean everything the characters are saying.
And that is something that we have on the shelf to take in over the course of this time, but it didn't hit me to watch that. But yeah, if you watch something like Dogtooth and then this, or even The Lobster and then this, it's just like, that's interesting.
Mm.
Jacob asks, best Ruffalo performance since?
Sort of cast against type, really.
Yes.
As someone else brought up earlier. That might have been Jacob too.
Yeah, a very anti-Mark Ruffalo role.
Yeah, sort of he's kind of a pathetic villain. He's very ineffectual by the end, just kind of wailing, like Bella. He does like the Stanley from Streetcar Named Desire treatment.
Yeah, he is a pathetic shit.
Mm.
But he doesn't open up that way. He's a conniving.
Yeah, ne'er do
whatever.
well who seduces her into going on adventures with him. But by the end, he's made ineffectual and insecure, ruined by this witch of a woman who's ruined his life.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty funny.
I'm just trying to look up Mark Ruffalo's
filmography.
Yes.
So he's been in Avengers, obviously. He's been in a lot of romantic comedies, as I recall. That was him in 13 Going on 30, appropriately enough, about a young woman in a grown lady's body.
Yeah, it's just, I don't want to get into another fucking thing. But yes, that's kind of the fact that this movie was made in 2023 and it's still doing the Born Sexy Yesterday. Is that the thing?
Yeah, that's the trope that we covered before we did the stream.
Shutter Island was more recent than Zodiac.
Mm-hmm. And who was he in Shutter Island?
He was the other. He was the
doctor, the other detective.
The other detective.
Yeah.
Spoiler.
Okay.
Yeah, whoever. DiCaprio.
I remember Ted Levine. I remember.
Ted Levine had a tiny part in that movie.
Yeah, but you brought him up.
Would you?
The woman who played Dolores. Who was she? She's somebody, right?
Dolores. Which one's Dolores?
His wife.
Oh, yes, that's fuck. Yeah.
Yeah, she's somebody.
It reminded me of Gandolfini in Killing Them Softly. You expect him to be an alpha male, but he ends up being an enormous toddler. I love it when actors go against type.
Yeah, it's always fun. Fun for the actor too, I guess.
Yeah, he made his money with the Marvel shit, so he gets to go back to having fun.
The Marvel shit isn't fun. It's just like, oh god, I've still got to do 30 of these.
Oh fuck, he was in Foxcatcher too. Shit.
My brother called that the movie where nothing happens.
Foxcatcher?
Yeah.
Did you stop watching at the end?
It's the one with Steve Carell, yeah.
In a fucking, it's based on a true story.
Yeah, I know.
Did he watch the whole movie?
Apparently. He considered it very slow.
It's slow, but something happens. But yes, it takes forever to get there. That's
we have different ways of consuming media, me and my brother. He says, why do you talk through stuff? Why can you not just watch it?
I don't dispute his mentality, but him thinking that Foxcatcher, nothing happens is suspect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Slow, bad to some. Thank you, Jacob. Yeah. But well, this is not something for an audience because actually, no.
I thought the Batman was slow, but that's because I'd gone without my medication for a while. So the pacing in my head was just very messed up. I was like, I've been in this theater for 6 hours now.
Wait, the Batman, the Robert Pattinson one?
Yeah. We went to see it in the theater, and I was experiencing some very weird time dilation issues with the movie.
Yeah, that's not the movie's fault.
I mean, it was 3 hours long. I was like, could they have made this 2 hours? Possibly.
But yeah, Emily does tend to speak over not quiet parts of the movie, and that is frustrating. Like when key dialogue comes up and Emily's like, oh, that reminds me.
Well, it does. I gotta tell you before I forget.
Yeah.
What just happened?
Yeah, there are times, especially if you're watching something for the first time, it's a little frustrating.
Yeah, I apologize. It's felt like the most authentic Ruffalo on screen yet.
That's a fair assessment.
It's the part he was born to play.
Indeed. Mark Ruffalo. Woo! All right. So I don't know what is next, but I considering that over on that darn Kiddish channel, most of us without Kitty, we're talking about Sweet Baby Inc. I may get a couple of my gamer cohorts together to discuss what us vanilla folk think about the situation, because it's puzzling. And the fact that all of the internet, as far as gaming is concerned, are calling this Gamergate 2.0, and I'm kind of puzzled by it. But that's just me. That might be a stream.
Did you want to touch Dinner in America at some point?
Yeah, not on this stream. This stream's called
Not
Core
on this
Things.
one. No.
Yeah, we
At
might
point.
do a that might be a supporter exclusive, because we recorded one thing that is going to be a podcast, and then later on, after it's had enough time, on
nuclear annihilation movies.
Right.
So look forward to that.
So Dinner in America might be another thing that will have multiple purposes. But yeah, and then Show Business returns Monday night. Did Gamergate ever end? Great comment, Jacob. Brilliant point.
And thank you for being here throughout the quite long video. That
indeed, I mocked somebody who covers movies for far longer than their runtime, and here we are getting close to it. This is what I do. I commit hypocrisy on a daily basis.
Poor Things was at least 2.5 hours, so I think we're still good.
Yeah, we're almost there. Yeah, so keep an eye out. I'll be back at some point. At the very latest, Show Business returns on Monday. Say goodnight, Emily.
Good night.